Hi, students and families. Thanks for joining us for virtual back to school night. My name is Mr. Coben. I'm teaching sixth grade language arts and social studies this year. Hopefully, I'm your child's teacher. If I'm not, you clicked the wrong link, and this isn't the video for you. But want to go through and just talk. What do you need to know this year? So first, the mantra that I want you to just remember is do the best you can and just be honest with yourself about what that is. I understand what you're going through as a distance learning parent because I have a first grader and third grader in Brentwood schools. So I know kind of the challenges, we'll say, that you might be facing. Just do the best you can with what you have. That's all I want you to think about. So who am I? Obviously, I've told you, my name is Mr. Coben. I went to UC Davis. I have a degree in economics. This is my 8th year teaching language arts and social studies at Bristow. It's my 16th year teaching. I've taught everything from 5th to 8th grade, and I really enjoy 6th grade. I think your students are really going to like it. In my opinion, I think it's one of the most enjoyable curriculums that we get to study. So distance learning, like I said, I get your perspective. I know it feels a little bit like the Twilight Zone. I will say that this is not going to look like fourth quarter. We all learned hopefully a lot about what works, what doesn't, and there's a lot of opportunities here to make the system really work. And so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that evolution means that we're improving it and that it's getting better. And then all you need to know is just one step at a time. Keep your world small. And what I mean by that is just worry about what's the one little tiny next thing we have to do. Don't worry about the whole big picture. Just one thing at a time, one foot in front of the other, and it's going to be fine. Just handle what you got in front of you. So with parenting, you're here because you want to help your student. So what you can do, if I can only say, here's the one thing you should do to help your student, it's to try to teach them to become independent, right? The term for that is decentralized command. Think of them as a subordinate or an employee where you want to empower them to be successful on their own, where you just kind of have to check in and monitor and support as needed, but they can function pretty much on their own and be super successful. And so how do we do that? Well, one is I keep it simple. I'm going to give you a daily schedule, give you some examples so that you understand the patterns. I know how helpful that was for me as a parent to get into a flow and understand every day, okay, and we're going to click here and we're going to do this, and then it's this, and here's how you get into math. So I'm not going to try to throw all kinds of wild curveballs at you. It should be hopefully a pretty simple daily flow. Due dates are posted with the assignments. So kids can't say they don't know when it's due because it literally shows up and will say Friday at 3:30 or whatever. Teach them to communicate for help. Teach them how to email. Teach them how to use Google Messenger. Have them create an email account if they don't have one. Create a Gmail account that you have the password to that you can monitor and show them how to use it. That's an important life skill that they need to know, and now is a great time to teach them how to do that. There are tons of supports available. If they are only coming to you and they're taking hours and hours and hours of your time, and they say, well, I don't know, my teacher didn't tell me, they're not understanding or they're not being honest with you because there are a lot of supports available that I'm going to show you. Again, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And then just have your student advocate for themselves. If they need something, have them ask. If they're doing their best and they don't need something, let them get to work, but just try to empower them to be successful. All right, so what can you do when you need help? First, you can check my webpage or have your student show you how to do that. I show them this literally every time we meet, how to get to my webpage, so they know how to do that. Check Google Classroom. I show them this literally every time we meet. I will actually post a video of the teaching, and I'll get into it later, but instead of trying to teach on Zoom, I'm actually going to pre-record the lessons the day before and post them so that you can see them and make it a little bit easier. Email me. This is my email address. Just know the student email address is at brentwood.k12.ca.us. Those do not have an account that I can respond to. So if they send it from there, I can't reply back. So that's why I said it may be a good idea to have them create their own student Gmail or use your email so that they can email me from somewhere I can actually reply to. They can post comments under the assignments. Again, I show them this literally every time we meet. So they know if there's just a quick question they want to ask, they can put it in there. I have office hours, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays at 1:30 to 2 o'clock. I'm going to try this out first and see how it works. And again, this might change over time for a whole host of reasons, but that's what we're going to start with and see how it goes. And then the other thing is, if I've made a mistake, please let me know. If the link is not working, it's probably not because you're doing something wrong. It's probably because I did something wrong. Talking about supports, you can hurt a student with too much support. Kids often will try to tell me as a teacher, I don't know how to do this. And I tell them, I don't answer that question. I need a specific question. Because when kids say, I don't know how to do this, what they're really saying is, how much of this work will you do for me? So try to get them to ask a specific question and then work from there. So if they say, well, I don't know what he taught. Well, did you look at Google Classroom where the video is posted, right? Did you read the directions? Just those simple kind of guiding questions that point them in the right direction will help them develop that independence. Because if every time you say, I don't know, or they say to you, I don't know how to do this, and you do the work for them, they're going to continue saying, I don't know how to do this. So you want to show them how to get help and just tell them to be comfortable asking for help. I love it when students come with questions because it tells me they're trying and that they care. And that's all I could ever expect of a student. And then you want them to just have extreme ownership. Like, this is their learning, not yours. You've already done sixth grade. This is their experience. And while I love it, I taught kindergarten with my kindergartner because that was what it had to be. And that's fine. If you feel like you have to sit with them, just be conscious of the fact of, are you doing the work for them, or are you enabling them to seek the answers and be able to develop those skills independently? And you know the answer to that question a million times better than I ever could. But just know that that's something to really think about as we go through middle school in general. All right, online stuff, rules and procedures. We all kind of know the way the world works now, which is you can assume that you're being recorded in the grocery store line, or stand outside of Costco or whatever. So I try to keep it simple and just say, behave in a way that you would feel okay with me showing to your family, right? If they're okay with it, then I'm probably okay with it. So, a good question, like as an example, students will ask, well, do I have to leave my video and audio on? If they're super uncomfortable, no, they don't have to, because I want them to be learning, not struggling. However, if they never turn their video on and their audio is never on, and they're also not seeming to understand the work, then I'm going to start asking some questions like, hey, are you really paying attention? Are you really watching? So basically, as long as they're being successful, I give them the freedom to do what they feel like is best for them. If they're not being successful, then I kind of start helping try to guide them. But what if it's not going right? So as a first issue, I will just give a very specific and gentle reminder to not do whatever it is. Hey, so-and-so, I saw you put that comment in the chat. Please don't do that. It's not appropriate to talk about things not school related. Hope is always like, okay, sure, I won't do that anymore. And then we move on. However, if there's a second offense in we're talking about a narrow period of time. It's not like week 2 and then week 7 and week 9, but we're talking within the same, week. I'm going to mute them for the remainder of the meeting. And then, so I'm going to turn off their video and audio, and then I'm going to contact you and we'll talk about it from there. If there's a third offense, they're going to be able to join in, but they no longer get the benefit of the doubt. They're going to be muted upon entry, and they're going to have to remain muted, which means no one can see or hear them. They will still be, and muted means they can still see and hear me. So they can still get the learning. They just can't distract others. If there's a fourth offense, then they can join in, but they're going to be muted. And for the third offense, they're going to be muted for the week. So, and if it's on a Friday, it's going to be the next week, and then they can try again. However, if there's a fourth offense in the same quarter, they're done. They're done for the rest of the quarter. And the simple reason is this is extremely difficult as it is. And if they're only joining in to disrupt others, they're not actually learning anything, but they're preventing others from learning. And so that's the way it's generally going to be handled. Grades and deadlines, this is determined by curriculum instruction in our district. They just sent us an email on Friday that they're going to do 50% participation and 50% assessment. And we still have to figure out exactly what that means as teachers, but we're working on it. Deadlines will show up on assignments when they are given. So you don't have to wonder, when is this due? It will tell you on the assignment. I always point that out to students. So again, if they say, I don't know when it's due, they're either not listening or they're trying to trick you, because I will always point out, when is this due? If there's an issue with the deadline, I understand we're in a very different situation right now. There are going to be times where you need an extension. If you contact me proactively and you plan for it, generally I will probably be able to give you more time, right? If you know that, hey, on Friday, I have to drive with my mom to work and I can't do this, just let me know ahead of time, right? Because you can plan for that. If you contact me after the deadline, the only way I'll grant an extension if it's at my discretion, and it has to be an extreme circumstance. There's no way you could have planned for this or planned around it. And then with grades, the thing I want to impress that's very important is that effort and habits are more important than grades. Now is not the time to stress about their letter grades. Now is the time to teach them how to use an email account, to ask questions, to learn life skills. This is going to be equally true when distance learning is over. Grades should not be the thing that drives them. I mean, it's a good reward for kids' success, but ultimately those habits are the most important things when it comes to being successful. I'm going to try to make it so things go into a flow so that it's repetitive and it's not a surprise and it's a little bit easier for everyone to understand. So the pattern is always going to be the same, or at least this is what I'm going to start with and try. So language arts is a 2-period class. So you're either with me second and third period or fifth and sixth. So at the start of second period at 9:30, I want you to log into the Zoom, or your students to log into the Zoom, and we'll spend the start talking about the agenda, talking about the assignment, talking about any questions they might have, just as we would do as if we were in class, clarifying everything that they need. Then they will go off into Google Classroom for a pre-recorded lecture, just as if they were watching me teach in the classroom. I will try to put this up the night before so that if you'd like to preview it as a family with your student, you can do that so they can show up to period 2 with questions. If students preview it beforehand and then ask their questions in this 9:30 to 9:45 window, they're probably going to be ready to work independently for the remainder of the time, and they'll have the opportunity to do that. So at 9:45, the assignment's clear. They know what they're doing. They can go off and work during second and third periods. However, for some students, they're going to think that they understood it, and then they're going to realize they have a question. So from 9:45 to 10:20, they're going to work independently, and I'll be in Google Classroom and answering emails. However, at 10:30, I'll get back into Zoom for 15 minutes to answer any questions that students might have. And then they get time to just go on and work on their own. Now, what if something else pops up? I'm going to have office hours from 1:30 to 2 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So if they discover any questions they have, and then of course they can email anytime. So I will constantly try to respond to email, except when I'm in a Zoom meeting. I will, if I remember, I will have my email closed. Social studies is the same setup. First 15 minutes, come together, clarify. Basically, we're just trying to prioritize, and execute. Like, hey, first 15 minutes, here's what you need to do. Here's how you're going to do it. And then let them go work on it. If they have me for period 4 and things didn't quite make sense, at 1:30, I'll have office hours where they can come back and ask questions. So that's going to be your pretty typical daily flow. Start of the day, agenda, kind of give them objectives and learning targets. Most of the day, let them go through and work on it on their own with the Zoom support in there at some point where they can come and ask questions. It's because I'm really doing everything I can to try to minimize the amount of time they're going to come to you. I want them to email me or come to me with questions instead. And then I know this question I'm going to get, so I'm just going to answer it right now. Why don't I direct teach over Zoom? Zoom is an awful direct teaching tool. It has no benefits. It has only cons. The best thing about recorded video is that you can pause it, you can rewind it, you can rewatch it, you can watch it later, you can watch it again. It's always there for you. It's clearly the right way to teach content, just as if I were in class. They're getting the same thing. Zoom is clearly superior for any time they have questions. If it's not a single quick question, like what's the class code, that's great for a chat, for Google Classroom, for an email. But if they have a more in-depth question, Zoom is fantastic for larger discussions, right? A 2-minute discussion on Zoom can take the place of a chain of 47 emails. So your kid's not going to be on Zoom. Your student's not going to be in Zoom all day long. It's not good for them. It's not helpful for them. It's not beneficial. It's not the good way to teach. So that's the rationale for why, and I just want to explain that at the beginning. And so the big thing here is the mantra after all this: just do the best you can, right? And just be honest with yourself about what that is. We're going to take one step at a time. This is actually going to be fine. I'm hoping that there's going to actually be a lot of fun stuff that kids actually enjoy, because there's so much awesome technology out there right now that there are opportunities here to get better. And so I appreciate your patience, your assistance, your teamwork, And I hope that your student has a great sixth grade year. And thank you again for taking the time to watch this video.